Hi YouTube. It's been about 4 weeks since I had my CABG operation, which is coronary artery bypass graft. So basically it was a triple bypass surgery on my heart. So I put out one video about 2 weeks after, but then I had some complications and had to go back into the hospital, and now I got a ICD. I believe it's a pacemaker. Um, but what it does, it's supposed to catch my heart so it doesn't stop. So what had happened was, after the operation, I came home. I was discharged from the hospital. Everything was looking good, and I started having these events where, I was coughing up phlegm as normal, but in between coughing up some of the phlegm, I would get a feeling that I would have to cough, but then I wouldn't be able to breathe, and like I could breathe out, but I couldn't breathe back in. And then next thing I know, I was, like in a, like I had fallen position, I was sitting in a chair, but like I fell back into the cushion, and just woke up there. I would just all of a sudden wake up, and open my eyes and say, look around, and oh, what just happened, So I had one of those and didn't think much of it, so I was just like, okay, let me just keep that in the back of my mind. And then so, we were out going through my appointments, so my wife was driving me, and on the way back to the house, all of a sudden I kind of got that feeling again where I could, I breathed out and I couldn't breathe back in, like I was, choking, or not choking, but there was no air. And I kind of like tried to cough and cough, and I think the coughing actually helped. But, I was sitting there, I'd hold my chest, I'd try to cough, 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 and then eventually I got some air. I was like, oh, okay, well, that was scary. So that was like, okay, that's number two. And then so we drove home, and I was sitting there. My wife was, had to do some of her things around the house, and get the chickens out and stuff like that. But what happened was, I was sitting in my recliner, and she came in, and we were just talking, and then all of a sudden I got that feeling again, still, coughing up phlegm and stuff, but, maybe it was been a couple minutes since I coughed up the last, but I started to get that feeling again where, I couldn't breathe, and my wife was standing right in front of me. So, I tried to kick her with my leg, and I couldn't talk, couldn't say, can't breathe, but I started trying to kick her with my leg, and then the next thing I know, I hear her, Ollie, come on, wake up, and she's sitting there, blowing into my mouth, and I was like, okay, what just happened, and she's shaking me and patting my back. I guess she, would like pull me forward, and she showed me, or hey, so the hospital showed me how to pat my back, if I needed to get some phlegm out and stuff like that. So she was actually doing that and shaking me, and I came to, and I was like, what just happened? So, but yeah, that was kind of scary. And so, I didn't want to, so long story short, we went back to the emergency room, and they took us in like immediately. So I didn't want her to, have to go through that, and So, basically, I think she revived me, and, you know, everything after that, we got back to the emergency room. They took me right in, hooked me up to a heart machine, taking my EKG, all my vitals, and I was kind of in the emergency room for, shoot, was that about 16 hours? Yeah, and then they put me up in a room back in the recovery area where I was. Um, it was a couple doors down from where I just was, for my recovery from the heart operation. And um, yeah, so uh, just one of the experiences that from this uh, heart operation. So one of the things I did want to note was when you go into the operating room initially, you're going to be uh, approached by your doctors, all the people that are basically going to be working on you. So um, the doctor that's going to do the open heart, the anesthesiologist, a bunch of nurses will just, start coming in, taking your vitals. Everybody's really super nice. Um, Really good experience. Everybody's upbeat, optimistic. So the anesthesiologist, came in and we talked, and he was just getting a feel for, I guess, they have to measure you by weight to get, how much anesthesia they should use, and they ask you a bunch of questions and that. So one thing I should have brought up, and this is going to be experience for people that are going in there. If you got any kind of weird stuff that, I've got two vertebrae in my neck that are fused together from birth. So if you put my neck in a kink like this instead of straight, it reduces my breathing tubes or whatever. I can't breathe as well. So when I woke up from the anesthesia, I was in that position, and they were like telling me to breathe, and I was like, I can't breathe, but you can't do that because you have tubes in your mouth. And so I was trying to hand signal, because you got these like mittens on, but I was trying to hand signal them to say I got to lie flat, but how do you do that? So I was trying to, and then I went up to touch the intubation or the tubes, and they were like, no, he's trying to get the tube, pull the tubes out. And then they grabbed my hands on both sides and strapped them down to the table. So I was like, okay, now I can't do anything anymore. So that was pretty scary, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I know I had these tubes in my mouth. I know they wanted me to breathe, but, and from having a deviated septum all my life, I'm used to being a mouth breather. And so I'm trying to breathe with my mouth, and there's nothing going in. I can't breathe in. So I'm sitting there. What do I do? What do I do? Came to me eventually. I was like, let me breathe through my nose. You know, I was able to breathe in through my nose, and I was like, okay, well that works. So, but I'm breathing in through my nose, and like out through my nose, and they're like, no, we need you to breathe. Take a deep breath. So I was like, I don't know what they mean, but apparently they wanted me to breathe in through my nose and push out through my mouth, because what it would do is it would get all the phlegm that accumulated, all the liquid that was in my lungs, it would get that to push out. So that's what they wanted me to do, because as soon as I did that, I was like, I knew I had spit in my mouth, and I was just like, okay, well, here goes. And I just like started drooling all over the place, and they're like, okay, good. They're, vacuum that up, and they had a tube that was going around and vacuuming around my mouth. I'm like, is that what you wanted me to do? And I'm just thinking to myself, because, you can't talk or anything like that. So I started doing that continuously. Breathe in through my nose and push everything out through my mouth and let all the drool and everything. I was like, okay, it's going to be messy, but I was like, let it drool. I should write a song about that. But, But yeah, I kept on doing that, and they were like, okay, good, he's doing good. And then eventually, after maybe about half an hour or so, I don't know how much time elapsed. I didn't even know where I was. So apparently I was in the ICU, so past the operating room. But this is the first instance that I remember after going down for the operating, or for going down for the operation. That was the first next memory. So go down to the operating room, they go to sleep, I wake up, I got these tubes in my mouth, you know, they want me to breathe, I can't breathe. So, that was my next thing. But what I should have done was told the anesthesiologist, hey, you got to let me more flat, because in order to really help get all this stuff out, I actually had to lean my neck back and push my chest out in order to get my breath, in order to get a good breath in there and push all the rest of the stuff out, because they had my neck like this and I couldn't get a full breath. So until I did this all by myself, I just was like, here we go, I'm just going to do it myself. And I pulled my neck back, and it lifted up my shoulders a little bit, and I was able to get a good breath in through my nose and expel it all out through my mouth. So scary point, so. But yeah, and then finally they were like, okay, you got enough out, they pulled the tubes out and they're like, okay, breathe, and I'm like, okay, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. So the big thing to remember when you go in for that operation, and hope you remember it when you're coming out: in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. So yeah, pretty scary. And then then I remember going back under, and next thing I know, I wake up. My next recollection is the attending nurse in the ICU is trying to get me all cleaned up. I have tubes all in me, tubes in my neck, tubes in my thigh, tubes in my wrist, in my elbows, tubes in my chest. So I had the 3 tubes, operating tubes in the chest. So had all of those, and she's trying to clean me up and just check my vitals and everything. So yeah, pretty scary. So she cleaned me up and was trying to help me get some of the, make sure I was good, so that they could put me down into step down. So, and it starts to rain. So there was like thunderstorms in the distance, and they're here. So, but yeah, hope you guys can benefit from this. Anybody, if there's one person that's going to benefit, it's going to be all worth it. So in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. So, well, here's the rain. All right. Oh. Well, all right. Well, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like. And I'm back. So hopefully be putting out some more content. And yeah, on we go. So, but yeah, pretty scary. All right, have a good one.